Welcome everybody, thank you for joining us at this Geography Subject Admissions webinar. We hope you're all looking forward to it. I've got with me Dr. Michael Bravo, Dr. Antonio Ferraz de Oliveira and Faith, who's one of our current students. And they're going to be talking to you about geography at Downing and at Cambridge today. So first of all, I'm going to start off with my presentation. Brilliant. So as I said before, welcome to everyone. Thank you all for joining us here today. My name is Catriona and I am part of the admissions team at Downing College and have organised this event for you all today. So why are we running this webinar? Well, hopefully you're all interested in studying geography at Cambridge and at Downing, so hopefully this webinar is going to help you to decide whether it is something that you're interested in doing in the future, and we're going to run through lots of different pieces of advice for you to help with that. So the timetable for today then, I'm going to start by going through the admissions process and give you a quick overview of what happens in year 13. Then I'm going to give, you're going to have an introduction to the course from Michael and Antonio. That should say geography, apologies for that. And then Faith is going to give you a geography student summary of what it's like to live and study in Cambridge at the end. And then we'll have a Q&A at the very end for you all to ask any questions that you have and that haven't been answered by any of the presentations. A few things to keep in mind then. If you can keep your cameras and your microphones off throughout the talk, that would be really good. And we'll try and answer as many questions as we possibly can. You should see at the bottom of your screen there is a Q&A box. So please be submitting any questions that you have in the Q&A box, and we'll answer all of those at the end of the webinar. So I hope you all enjoy it. So what is Downing College then? So I've put a picture of it up here. This is the college, it's in the centre of Cambridge. We're one of the 31 Cambridge colleges and we're the 17th to be founded. And we take students for all subjects, including geography. And we were founded in 1800 by Sir George Downing. So it's part of the same family that built Downing Street, which I'm sure you're all very aware of in London. And we have around 450 undergraduate students in the college, and we take around 120 new students each year from a range of different subjects. And that's a medium-sized college. So there are colleges in Cambridge who take more students than that, and there are colleges who take fewer. So that was a little bit of an introduction then to the college, and then I'm going to talk to you now about the admissions process for geography. So what are we going to cover? We're going to cover the role of the departments and the colleges, the admissions process, admissions assessments, personal statements, and then interviews. So at Cambridge, you're part of the university, you're part of the geography department, and then you're part of a college. So there's three different areas that you're part of, so I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about each of those. So the university award the degrees, and so if you come to Cambridge, you will get a Cambridge University degree in geography. It won't be from whatever college you apply to, and the careers service is also delivered by the university across all departments and all colleges. And then the geography department itself set the course content that you're going to be looking at, and Antonio is going to tell you more about in a few minutes. They set your lectures, your seminars, any practicals, any projects, any field trips, all of that is set by the department. And then the exams are all set and the assessments by the department as well. So if you are at Downing College or one of the other colleges doing geography, you will get the same teaching. The only part that happens, teaching that happens in college is small group teachings called supervisions. And the colleges also do the admissions process. So you need to choose which college you'd like to apply to at the beginning. And we will do the selection and admissions process through the college. And then when you become a student, the college looks after you academically and pastorally. So you have a director of studies who you can talk to about any course issues you're having, a personal tutor who you can speak to about any issues you're having in college or living in Cambridge. And then the college also have lots of other people like the college nurse and college chaplain available for your well-being. Most students, pretty much all of them, live within the college grounds, so we've got enough accommodation on site for everybody. So the college very much becomes your home because you sleep there, you eat there, you study there, you've got all your friends there, you can do sports and societies all happening within college, and then those small group teachings that I spoke to you a little bit about before. And I know Faith is going to tell you more about how she's found her supervisions in the past couple of years. So the application process then, firstly you need to choose your course, so hopefully you're all interested in taking geography. Then you need to choose your college, and you can choose Downing or any of the other colleges that offer geography. Do check that the college does offer geography, and check that it's not a postgraduate college or it's not just for women if that doesn't apply to you. Then you need to check for any admissions tests and make sure you've registered. For geography, this is not necessary to do. Your UCAS application is then submitted by the early entry deadline, which is the 15th of October. And then at Cambridge, we ask for something called an SAQ, which is just a supplementary questionnaire. And we ask for this because there's more information we would like to know that UCAS don't allow us to ask, because that goes to every university, and this is just things that Cambridge would like to know. It's nothing to worry about, it's things that you can answer straight away. For example, we might ask you what modules and topics you've covered in your A-levels, because not everyone is on the same syllabus. Then some colleges will ask for submitting written work. At Downing for geography, we don't ask you for this. And then the interviews, if you're invited for interview, happen in the first 3 weeks of December. And then everybody finds out in January if they have been accepted by the college they applied to, if they've been accepted by another college, or if they've been unsuccessful in their application. So what do we use to assess your application then? So that we get loads of information about you, and we use all of it holistically to make a well-rounded judgment decision on your application and whether to make you an offer or not. And so we'll take in all these different things, so your academic record, your personal statement, your teacher reference, any tests that you do, any written work, any extenuating circumstances you may have, and then your interview as well. So no part is looked in isolation. We are looking at everything that we know about you and making a decision based on that. But what are we actually looking for in our students then? So we're looking for your academic ability and potential. I can't stress this enough, that is the main thing that we are looking for. We want to see that you're suitable for the course, so why are you interested in geography? We want to see your motivation and enthusiasm for geography. And then we're also checking for any subject requirements and prerequisites that we may have. But we're not interested in your background, in your school you've come from, or any extracurricular activities that you've done which are unrelated to your subject. So our standard conditional offer then is an A star and 2 A's, or 40 to 42 points in the IB, with 7, 7 and 6 in your higher levels. If you're not doing the IB or A levels, do check out the website to find out what the standard conditional offer will be based on what you're studying. So your personal statement, I thought I'd give you a little bit of advice about this, because this is something that we do look at and people do worry about. This forms part of your UCAS application, which you submit by the 15th of October. It's 4,000 characters, and that includes any blank spaces as well. And it's around 47 lines of text, so about 500 to 600 words. and whichever you hit first, either the character number or the line number, it will cut out at that point. So it's quite a short document, but it's about an A4 side of typed paper with normal margins to give you an idea. And the main reason you are asked to do a personal statement is to tell the universities why they should choose you. So it's your first opportunity to tell us about your passion for geography, why you're interested in studying it, any plans that you have, and it should be mainly academic focused and interested in the course. And we're looking for your motivation for the course and suitability for the course. And for universities that don't interview, this is your only opportunity for you to say why they should give you a place over somebody else. So it's really worth spending some time making sure that you're happy with it and it represents you well. So finding out more about your subject then, as I've said, we don't look at extracurricular activities, but what we are interested in is your supercurricular activities. So you may have heard this term used before. This is anything you do that is kind of reading around your subject. So any interest in geography that you have shown that is outside of your classroom studies, we're interested in. So that might be an activity that you've done, it might be something you've read, a podcast you've listened to, and I've put a few different examples up there of things that you can start looking at, journals and things like that. And so it's well worth starting this now, and it will also help you with your interview if you're invited for interview as well. And if you really enjoy this shouldn't be a chore. You should enjoy doing this sort of research and learning, because that's going to help show to us that you are genuine about studying the course and interested in doing it, and it'll prove to you as well that it is the right decision for you. So successful personal statements then give us specific examples and evidence of your interests and any achievements you've got. And it should show that you've gone beyond your school curriculum and your interests. About 2/3 subject-based, as I was saying before, and it's basically just used as an opportunity for you to say why you should be chosen and why you want to study that course for 3 years. So Cambridge admissions test then, you don't need to worry about this because it's not any test for you. So the interview process, usually these take place in the first 3 weeks of December, and they will be conducted in college by academics and fellows and people who will be teaching you as well. And you'll have 2 interviews within the college, around 20 to 30 minutes each. And for geography, one is normally more human geography focused and the other is more physical geography focused. And you'll be given kind of reading beforehand and then come into the interview to discuss your reading and what you found from it. And you can also be presented with graphs and new material and asked to kind of comment on what you think about them. So interviews can also include recent academic work, so that's where your supercurricular is really important because you'll know more recent academic work. Any wider reading that you've done, they might ask you about, any work experience if it's relevant, any issues in the wider world happening at the minute that you're particularly interested in, they might ask you to comment on one. Present you with a new scenario, so some information that you've not seen before, and they want to see what existing knowledge you're bringing to a new and unknown situation. And as I said before, you might be given pre-reading or problems or graphs or data to look through and to comment on. So a couple of frequently asked questions then. I get asked whether you can take a gap year. Gap years are not a problem. You can apply for deferred entry, but it is worth checking with the other colleges if you don't apply to Downing and whether they're happy for deferred entry for geography. And then any extenuating circumstances that may, anything that basically disrupts your education is worth letting us know about. And you can do this on your SAQ form. There's a space for you to tell us anything that's happened. And please do let us know, and we do look at these and take these into account. Obviously at the minute, with the lockdown and school not being on, there is a lot going on, and I realise there's a lot of disruption to your education. The University of Cambridge has asked students to record what support they have been given from their school. And just keep a record of that, and we might ask to see that later on. So do keep a record of what school is giving you, whether that be online provisions, homework tasks, projects, anything like that. If you keep a record, that's what we are currently asking the Year 13s to do. And that's everything from me. So I'm going to now hand over to Antonio, who's going to tell you more about the geography course.
So I'm Antonio. I'm a human geography fellow at Downing College. My specialty is in geopolitics, and I'll be telling you a little bit about the course, the structure of our course. So studying geography at Cambridge, I'm going to go through the whats, the hows, and the whys. So you will have studied geography as a subject perhaps in high school, but studying it at university is quite a different proposition. So the structure of the course as we have it, it's a 3-year BA. In the first year, we introduce you to the foundations in human and physical geography. One half of the course looking at different aspects of human geography, the other one at environmental processes. In the second year, we look at living with global change. So that's a course designed particularly to the Anthropocene and integrating science, policy, and culture. In the last year, we finally give you full independence, a completely optional course of study, where you get to pick what you're most interested in, and independent research. So what are the aims of the course as a whole? It's a course that aims to give people an integrated view of world affairs that is both environmentally aware, that understands the science behind climate change and other environmental processes, the material realities that underpin our life on Earth, but also one that's culturally and geopolitically astute, that understands the broader context of different nations on the globe trying to claim their stake and define the ways we understand things. Now, what's the kind of critical qualities that we end up attracting and developing on people? We tend to develop thinkers that are very anti-parochial, that don't think only from the basis of one country or one subject or one continent, but rather that link different places and think comparatively. So we're very much an anti-parochial community in terms of our thinking. On the other hand, we also tend to develop quite pragmatic and problem-solving people who understand, who are kind of eager to act and to solve different problems by creatively integrating different ways of thinking about it, perhaps different ways held by different stakeholders. Now, this what I just said could to a certain extent be true of geography at large as a subject at university, but it's also important to know that at Cambridge, not only we're particularly devoted to the issue of climate change and the Anthropocene, but we also have a particular form of teaching that might make it a more attractive place to learn. So that's the supervision system, where you not only have lectures, but you have very, very small teaching groups of 3 to 4 students with specialists who often will read a piece of work you've submitted beforehand, a presentation or an essay, and discuss with you really in detail the particular issue you are debating. That makes for a kind of depth in thought and opportunities in terms of engaging with issues that few other universities can offer. Yes, and then the other thing is collegiality at large. So because of the college system at Cambridge, you tend to have a lot of opportunities for integrating different societies, that invite speakers from abroad, that have a lot of independence in making interesting things happen. So it's the perfect place for people with initiative and eager to do things, to access resources and make interesting conversations happen between different subjects and between people at university and people outside the university. So back to the kind of structure of the course. Year one, foundations, the foundations year, where we go over the basis of human geography and physical geography. What can you expect to learn in that year? Well, on the human geography paper, we cover introductions to different topics such as geopolitics. So that's the competition over space and power over the globe. We also look at globalization and trying to think about globalization historically, not just from the 1990s, but rather from the 12th century onwards. We think also about epidemics in this context. We think about the cultures of nature. How have different groups of people understood their relationships to the environment? How have we thought about animals as instruments, or maybe something more than that? We also think about development and political ecology, the Anthropocene, this strange age where it seems that mankind has the power to determine or derail our global environment. And we also look at cities and social inequality, not least because we are now in a world where the majority of the population lives in cities. In physical geography, in turn, we really give you a complete overview of Earth systems and processes. So we think both in terms of a deep look at climate change. How has the climate of the Earth changed as a whole over millions of years with the ice ages and with the interglacial ages? But we also look at environmental processes. How does the atmosphere make the circulation of air and humidity determine different seasons and different climatic conditions? How do oceans make cold and hot water circulate, thus setting or a number of other environmental processes at hand? Or even how does biogeography operate? You know, how does a plant get a certain range? How are plants and animals transported to different places, and to what ecological consequences? So it's really a lovely overview at the Earth as an integrated system, as a kind of the most complicated clock that you could ever think of. In parallel to these two foundational papers, we also start to teach you geographical skills and methods, skills that really make us the envy of many deal of other graduates. So skills such as GIS, you know, geographical information systems, learning how to do online maps, learning how to use things like Google Earth and ArcGIS to much more sophisticated ways than the normal person. But also statistics, archival work, how to conduct interviews in a way that gets you the information you want, and practice labs to do with physical geography. So you really start getting that lovely holistic vision of what geography is by the end of the first year. In year two, we start specializing. So we still have one main paper that we make everyone take, called Living with Global Change. And then we give you the option of choosing 3 optionals. And you can start trying to pick if you want to be a geographer who's more interested in human affairs, or perhaps a geography that's more interested in physical processes, or even a geographer that marries the two things with more or less perfect balance. The Living with Global Change paper, to a large extent, is a paper that continues to articulate the way in which geography thinks about both environmental and societal questions together, you know, in a kind of interpenetrated way. And we really use the concept of the Anthropocene, so the current preoccupations about climate change, as a key starting point to think about how understandings that are both scientific and cultural might give us different perspectives on not only what climate change is, but what might we do about it? what kinds of situated interventions might we make that are intelligent. So those can both be in terms of public policy and use of science and technology, but also many times in terms of how to encourage different communities to adapt appropriately. So it's a kind of paper designed for these very timely questions. Then apart from these kind of papers that you carry on with throughout the year, we also have a very cherished collective activity in year 2, which is the field trip, where you normally go as a group with a number of other geographers from your year to a different destination. In the past, we've had Mallorca in Spain, or the Atlas Mountains in Morocco, or Berlin, or Algarve in Portugal. And you visit those destinations with geographers from the department who introduce you to the practice of fieldwork. So how to actually collect data when you go out into different sites for work, for research, and what kinds of cares to take. Now that's particularly useful, not just because it's extremely fun, but also because it prepares you for the independent fieldwork that you'll do between year 2 and year 3 in preparation for your own dissertation, which is based on your independent research. So that takes me neatly to the final year, the 3rd year, the year of independence. So if the first and 2nd year, to different degrees, we're trying to give you these foundations about how to interlink different societal and environmental questions, year 3 allows you to just stick to what you fancy entirely. So if you found that what your burning interests are in physical geography, if you want, for instance, to understand very, very intimately how the ice sheets are retreating in the Arctic, and what kinds of processes are driving that, what kinds of interventions perhaps could slow that, then you might take glaciology, and you're going to have a kind of specialized understanding that you haven't covered in previous years. But you could also find yourself being more interested in human geography topics, or a combination. You could, for instance, be interested in how legal processes, so the way that courts deal with disputes, are traversed by different geographies, by uneven and spatially uneven ways in which the law is distributed and adjudicated. So many people like that course because it gives them a more social understanding of law, and it gives them a more international understanding of law. But as you can see in the page that's showing right now, there's really a number of specialized modules, and you can pick up to 4 of them. The options available shift a little bit every year, depending on what specialist academics we have in the department teaching that year. So the options that are here are to kind of guide you as what might be a realistic possibility. Now, the other thing that I've already mentioned, and is very special, very treasured practice in geography, is the independent research and dissertation that goes on in year 3. So if in year 1 and year 2, we were trying to make sure that you understand the basics and that you understand the key debates and the very significant parts of literature that have defined the subject, in year 3, we're really, really looking for how you are developing your distinctive way of thinking about things. So because we want to help you along the way with finalizing this start into independent thought, we encourage you to do coursework, to write longer essays where you get the chance to explore a question a little bit more independently, do research on your own, and tell us what you think about it. So that's the kind of coursework options, which are specific to different optional subjects, which have an exam of 2 hours at the end of the year and a piece of coursework before the year. That's also really helpful because it allows people that prefer to also show the quality of their work outside of exam conditions to do that, right? Now, the dissertation, as I have mentioned, is based on your independent work. So normally this happens through undertaking field work or independent research between year 2 and year 3, and is a major piece of independent research that you produce by yourself throughout year 3. You write up. Now, the dissertation is really a very enjoyable process. You know, lots of students that I teach really tell me that some of their best memories are from working on the dissertation, because they find that they have the capacity and the autonomy to do things by themselves in a way that they were unfamiliar with. And it really sets you up well for your future career, where you will be often expected to do things independently, and where really sometimes what will make the difference between you and other people is the initiative and the creativity that you might have in developing a project by yourself. So dissertations are really a precious part of our final year. So as you might have heard, already at parts of what I was saying, this is a course that has a lot of career paths linked to it. So as you can imagine, given geography is integrating both environmental awareness and societal awareness, it's the kind of course that lends itself to a very broad range of careers. So say, for instance, if you become a physical geographer very specialized in atmospheric processes, you might find yourself in one of the cutting edge research centers trying to deal with climate change or weather modeling, right? But more often than not, people don't end up in such specialized academic or research positions. Many geographers, most tend to end up either working for public policy through the civil service, or in consultancies, advising companies how to adapt to different societal quandaries, and sometimes logistical quandaries involved with material problems, environmental assessments, things like this. We also have an important contingent of geographers that goes on to work in NGOs. So with NGOs such as Oxfam, you know, because geography is very attentive to, for instance, the relationships between society and environment in the global south, in several countries in Africa. We find many geographers end up working on NGOs related with global development. And we also have a good contingent of geographers that go onto teaching careers. So it's really a course with a great deal of different careers. Now, I should emphasize that studying geography at Cambridge, to a certain extent, gives you a better prospect in terms of careers, because it's a very well regarded university and course. Okay. So far we've talked about geography as a course in Cambridge. Now we should perhaps talk a little bit about Downing. You know, why Downing for geography in particular? So I could go over all the different reasons why our college is a lovely place. In terms of its collegiality, you know, it's a place where really you make friends for life, where there's a ton of societies that allow you to balance your study life with sports and cultural engagement. But also, more specifically, in terms of geography, is a very special college. It's a college with deep traditions in geography. We've had an average of 3 fellows, which is very high per subject, in geography for at least the last 60 years. We also have a society dedicated specifically to geography, the Hugh Grammar Society, that runs events with different speakers, and that also has annual dinners with alumni. So it's really a very special place to study geography, because there's a community and resources and opportunities that many other colleges can't boast of, to be honest. And yes, so that's really special. The other thing, of course, that sometimes people emphasize is a locational advantage. We're right next to the geography department, so it's lovely for attending the lectures in your pajamas. We're also very close to the Scott Polar Research Institute, which looks into polar studies and thinks very, very actively and creatively about climate change. And we also have a burgeoning think tank at college called the Center for Climate Solutions, where different fellows are working together to think about climate repair, to think about how to address the changes that are being set upon us by climate change more intelligently. And who knows, there might be even opportunities to do some forms of work with this center. So it's a really special place for geography, and I could not recommend it highly enough. I myself studied as an undergraduate at Downing, and I can tell you that I have very, very special memories of that time. It was really an opportunity like no other. So thank you for listening. I'll now maybe pass on to Faith, who is currently a student at Downing Geography, and we'll tell you a little bit more about how things look from the student side. And at the end, we'll have some questions. So don't worry if there's something I said that wasn't clear and you want to ask me about it, okay? Thank you.
So, just a little bit about me. I'm Faith. I am a second year geographer at Downing. So I've been here for a reasonably long time now. So I'm just going to try and give you a little bit of an overview of student life at Cambridge and about geography and how I find the course and the things I like and the things I don't like. And if you have any questions, please ask me at the end when we do the Q&A. So first things first, a little bit about me. I'm from Glasgow in Scotland, and I started studying at Cambridge in 2018. Now, hopefully, you'll be able to get a picture of me. This is me on my matriculation day, which is when you become a member of the university. And I'm going to talk to you today a bit about the preconceptions that I had of Cambridge before I arrived, a little bit about academic life and geography, which obviously you're all here to listen to, a bit about Downing, a bit about the things you can do outside of your degree, so where you can actually have a life in Cambridge, and some things about what is special about Cambridge and the experiences that you can have here that I don't think you can get anywhere else. So, firstly, preconceptions. Just like to preface this with the fact that this person is a real Cambridge student. However, this is not necessarily representative of what Cambridge students do all day. So I was one of only 2 people at my school who applied to Cambridge, and I was the only person that got in. So I turned up in the first day of first week and I didn't know anyone at all. And I was really scared and didn't know what to expect. I thought everyone was going to know each other and it was going to be really difficult to make friends and it was going to be posh, and none of these things turned out to be true. So most people come to Cambridge by themselves and they don't know anyone, and it's really easy to get to know people. Particularly, I think you make friends so quickly because you're sharing such a new experience. And you go through a lot of highs and lows together, and you have to really support each other through everything, and you make friends so quickly. And I am one of these people that made a friend in first week that I'm still best friends with now. So yeah, that's one of the things I was really worried about, but that was totally not a concern. Also, I thought that people came here pretty normal. Everybody loves their subject and is really enthusiastic about what they do, but we're not in the library 24/7. People care about their subjects, but not an insane amount, which I think is nice. So another thing that I was worried about before applying was the step up between university and school, and I was really worried about the academic side of things. However, everyone is really supportive. There is a big jump between school and university in terms of the style of work and also the kind of work and the volume of work that you're generating. All of the lecturers, supervisors, college staff were really, really supportive. And you do get so used to it really quickly, particularly after your first term. It just becomes natural and normal, even though you're generating much more work than you were doing at school. And I also think that you do learn, which I'll go on to talk about a bit later, you will learn to balance your time because you could, if you wanted to, you're so much more flexible than you are at school. You have hours and hours and hours in your day that you could fill with just solely working all the time. But you really do learn to have a work-life balance, and there are so many amazing opportunities outside of academics to do amazing things with amazing people that you don't want to spend all of your time doing academics. You want to really devote your time to it, but you also learn how to have a good work-life balance and how to really make the most of the whole wonderful, amazing and unique experience that is Cambridge. So academics, we're going to go on to talk a little bit about geography now. So I tend to have 1 or 2 lectures a day and maybe 1 lab or practical class every week. So for example, a GIS class or a stats practical. But again, this kind of varies throughout the year. Generally, that sort of amounts to about 8 contact hours, which is really manageable, which means you can be super flexible with your time. So you can work when suits you best. So I'm personally an evening worker, so I get a lot of my work done between 8 and 11. But I would work earlier in the evening because I'll be at hockey. And you just have so much control over that. So you really learn to kind of fit the work when works best for you. I think that the geography course, having a lecture or 2 a day gives me enough structure to get me out of bed in the morning and force me to get up and start working. But it doesn't jam-pack you with so much stuff that you feel really overwhelmed, and you have your timetable set out. So you'll know at the start of the week what lectures you've got, even though it's not a regular timetable. There's a calendar, so you can say, oh, on Thursday I'm going to be really busy, and there you can sort of see in advance, so you're not waking up every day and thinking, oh my goodness, what's going on. So when it comes to workload, I've heard people kind of say, oh, you should treat it like a 9-to-5 job. I think you really have to be, like I said, more flexible than that. You need to work how it works for you. Some people work better at certain times, and I think you just need to be really reflexive and figure out how you work best and when you work best, which is something that takes time to develop, particularly because you're using such different skills than you are at school. It does take time to get, but it does happen. I think one of the things that I find amazing for me about geography and about Downing is I have a wonderful group of friends who do geography at Downing. So there's 5 people in my year that do geography, and 4 of us we're really close, and we have such a wonderful sort of support network for each other. I was really worried that Cambridge was going to be really cutthroat and everyone was going to be, very academically competitive, whereas I feel everyone cares a lot about their degree and wants to do the best that they can. Everyone is so supportive, and we all work together. We read each other's essays, we listen to each other's rants and ask questions. And when you're working with someone, they'll say, oh, take a break, or oh, you're procrastinating, let's get on with it. And I think that's particularly at Downing, I think we just have a really lovely supportive vibe within the geography community, which is helped by stuff like the Brammer Society, which is the geography society at Downing, where we do events together. And yeah, it's a wonderful supportive geography community is basically what I want to say. So usually, like I said, you have 1 supervision a week, which is when, like Antonio mentioned, you sit down with the leading academic and you have the opportunity to discuss a piece of work that you've produced and the topics that you've got in lectures, which is a really, really amazing and unique opportunity, which you really don't get anywhere else. I think it's one of the best parts about Cambridge because it allows you to really interrogate a topic and expand your horizons and just challenge yourself to understand and to think about things really, really in depth. And also it helps you to ask questions and to know when to be wrong and to be willing to have your ideas challenged. That's one of the things about geography at Cambridge, is that the whole thing is about you interrogating your internal biases and your expectations and really challenging yourself to think differently about things. And supervisions are really the main vehicle for doing that, where you kind of tease out a problem and you're having to justify everything that you're saying. And I think it's a really amazing learning experience. And I think also it's helped me bond amazingly with the people I do supervisions with. So like I said, I'm really close to my geography friends because we work in such close environment with each other, and close learning environment, which I think helps build really strong friendships as well. So yeah, like I said, you write about 1 essay a week, and it can vary from term to term. In first year, again, like Antonio said, you study a mix of human and physical geography, I personally have always been a very human geography focused person, and I was very concerned. I obviously I was really keen on going to Cambridge, but I thought, oh goodness, the whole physical geography thing was really off-putting for me. However, I would say that it was something I enjoyed more than I thought I was going to. I don't do any physical geography modules this year. I selected my compulsory module and then 3 human geography modules. But I feel like the physical geography really gave me an important grounding in how the world works, and I feel like it really broadened my understanding. And it wasn't something that I was expecting to enjoy, but doing it was a lot more fun than I thought it would be. So I wouldn't let that put you off. And also, you are studying things that you haven't necessarily studied before, but through supervisions, there's so much support. So it doesn't matter if you've not necessarily studied something at school, and other people have, you will get as much support as you need to do the best you can in it. Geography at university is different to school in terms of teaching style, and also the kind of subjects you're studying. Like Antonio mentioned earlier, there's such a broad range of things that you wouldn't necessarily even consider to be geography, which I think is so interesting, and it really pushes the boundary of how you think and your subject. So, for example, I am currently writing or planning to write my dissertation on neoliberal feminism and exclusive workspaces in London. And I think that shows you how broad geography is. This is not something that I thought when I applied that I was going to be, 1, interested in, and 2, was really geography. And it just shows you the breadth of the subject. You can basically do pretty much whatever you want, but you're looking at it from a really unique geographical perspective, which I think you realise how special that is at university. And it's something that I think is so valuable and that I really enjoy. Yeah, I would say overall about academics and geography is you have to put a lot of work in, but really you're getting so much out of it. You're getting to learn, you're getting to challenge yourself, you're getting to think about really interesting things, and it's not always easy, but I think it's always really, really valuable. So yeah. So next I'm going to go, so here's some more pictures of me doing some, so this is, for example, on the left here, there's a picture of one of the things that we've drawn in a supervision, and here's me in the department with a volcanic rock. So, and this is the wonderful group of Downing geographers in my year, who are all lovely people. This is after we finished our exams in first year, and it's such a wonderful supportive community. So yeah, and this is us doing fieldwork in first year. So now I'm going to go on to college life. So, sorry. Downing is one of my favourite places in the whole world. I think it's amazing. And that's such a unique, colleges are such a unique feature of Cambridge life. Where you live, you work, you eat, and so they're just a huge part of your experience of Cambridge. I really love Downing, and I wouldn't, I haven't got here and thought, I wish I was at a different college. But you're not necessarily going to have a light bulb moment where you think, oh my gosh, this is the college for me. The reason I chose Downing was I came on the open day, I thought it's close to the geography department, I loved the big open space in the middle of college, and all the kitchens had ovens, which I really wanted to have because I like baking. And I think, Downing is generally amazing, but wherever you end up, everybody really loves their college. So don't stress too much about it. Just do what feels right for you, and you're going to have an amazing experience anyway. Selling points about Downing though, the accommodation is amazing. The kitchens are amazing quality, which is actually really rare in Cambridge, and you get double beds, and all the first years get to live together, so you get to bond with people in your year. But also there's the opportunity in second year, you're allowed to live on Downing, on the site of Downing for your entire course, which is again quite rare in Cambridge. So I live in a house, but it's on the main college site, so I have all the convenience of the library and the canteen and everything in one place, but having the experience of living in a student house, which I think is really great. And I often have moments where I'm walking through college to the library and I think, this is so beautiful, and I'm just so amazingly lucky to live here. The accommodation is amazing, and you have just, college is such a wonderful and supportive community. It's where you get your pastoral support. So your support from your personal tutor and your support from your director of studies. And so Antonio was my director of studies, and genuinely the support is really great. One of the things I was worried about was about going to university was I would be sort of chucked in at the deep end by myself, not really knowing anyone and just being a bit alone. But the support network around you is fantastic. Like, I can't stress it enough. There's also lots of fun social events and sort of things to do in college, including college sports like rowing and like football and rugby and ultimate frisbee. And it's just a really substantial part of your life, and it's the centre of your life, and it's a wonderful, Downing is a wonderful place to live and to work, and a fantastic community with really lovely people in it. There's also a really fun system in Cambridge called College Families, which is a really big deal at Downing. Again, it sounds really weird, but it's it's a really fun thing. So in your first year, you're assigned to a college family. So you have college parents and a college sibling who's in your year. So your parents are in the year above you, and one of them will do your subject. So I have one of my parents does geography, and they're there to kind of support you, and you can ask them questions about your subject, about college, just to really help you settle in. And it's just an amazing support system to have. When you finish your first year, you get fake married to one of your friends, and then when you're in the second year, you become college parents yourselves. So on the left is me and my best friend Lucy, and that is us getting college married. So we both do geography, so we have a lovely geography marriage. And then on the right is our wonderful children, Izzy and Abdi, and Izzy does geography well, and it's just such an amazing support system. It means you get to know people in other years, and it's just, it's really fun. And all of the geographers we have a lovely family tree of geography people, and it makes you feel really connected to people in other years, and helps you just settle into college so well. So having a life in Cambridge is possible. Shock horror. There's really so many opportunities, and this is one of the amazing things about Cambridge, is not just the academic opportunities, but the breadth of other opportunities that you have available. So currently, just a quick plug, I'm the president of the Cambridge Geography Society. So there's opportunities to get involved in geography outside of your degree. So we run events like a Christmas ball to socialise with other geographers, and we also run regular speakers events with speakers from all over the world. Names like Danny Dorling, who you've probably heard of, have come to speak at our events. And it's just a great way to engage with the subject outside of lectures, and just to listen to some really amazing and interesting people talk. There's opportunities to get involved in music, in drama, and sort of debating and speaking at the Union, who invite amazing speakers like Bill Gates and Noam Chomsky, and a huge range of people, if that's your kind of thing. There's also sport. So I personally play in the university's second hockey team, which I think is a wonderful experience. It really gives me a break from studying, and I think having work-life balance is so key. It gives me a chance to go and do something that I love and de-stress with a group of wonderful people who you can see here. And we play in the Bucks University League, which means we get to travel all around the country. I've been to places like Birmingham, Nottingham, to play different universities. And it's really fun. And there's so many social opportunities, and you can make friends from outside your college. So in the geography department and in other places, like all of the people who are in the hockey team do a wonderful variety of different subjects. And everyone is genuinely lovely at Cambridge. There are very, very few bad eggs, and everyone is really nice, really welcoming, and it's overall an amazing experience. So Cambridge as a city, I think, is a wonderful place to live. I come from Glasgow, which is quite a big city, and I was really concerned about the fact that I was living in a smaller place, but Cambridge really has everything you could hope for. It has all of your amenities, shops, restaurants, cafes, bars, but also wonderful architecture. Everything's really accessible by bike. And it's really easy to get around, and Downing is less than a 5-minute cycle or a 10-minute walk into the city centre, so everything's right on your doorstep. So I'm going to show you, sort of narrate a quick video that my friend made when she came to Cambridge in my in summer of last year. So I'm just going to run you through, hopefully give you a bit of an idea of some of the wonderful things in the city. So I'll just narrate through it. So this is Downing on a wonderful sunny day. And then you're going to see the inside of the library, the wonderful staircase. This is the road next to Downing called Tennis Court Road, which you walk up and down every day. This is the market in the centre of town. And this is the paddock, so a huge green space in the middle of the college where you can play sport. This is one of my favourite things about college. It's lovely, and there are not many pieces of grass in Cambridge that you can actually walk on in colleges. This is one of the little vintage shops in the city. And then you're going to see my favourite cafe, Fitzbilly's, which has wonderful cake and scones. This is Queen's College, which is another college, and the River Cam, which runs right through the city, where lots of people do rowing. This is St John's College, which is a huge college in the centre of the city, and this is Trinity College. Unfortunately, it was slightly less sunny this day than it was at Downing when you've just seen it in the previous videos. Sorry. And this is Formal Hall, which is one of the amazing Cambridge experiences where you get to sit down and have a 3-course dinner for £10 in a very, very fancy dining hall. So finally, I just want to talk about the Cambridge experience. There are so many amazing things you can do at Cambridge, like Mayballs, which are big parties that happen at the end of the year, and Formals, where you get to sit down and have a 3-course dinner. And it's a wonderful, wonderful experience. But also, Cambridge is the opportunity to get to know people that love their subject and to get to study something that you're really passionate about and to live in a beautiful city and beautiful settings. And it's such a wonderful opportunity, and I feel really, really lucky to have been able to do it. So finally, I would just like to conclude on a slightly cheesy note that before I applied to Downing, a careers officer came to our school and she said I would like to go to Cambridge, and she said, to be honest, I think you should be setting your heights a little lower. I don't think that's realistic for you. I think you may also think about doing a different subject. I'm not sure if geography is necessarily right for you. And I really didn't really take this advice. I thought, you know what, this is what I'm passionate about. This is what I want to do. This is where I want to be. And I gave it a go. And if I'd taken her advice, I wouldn't be here giving you this talk now. So just follow what you want to do and believe that you can do it, because it is really worth it and you can have some wonderful experiences. So yeah, thank you so much for listening, and in the Q&A please ask me any questions that you have about Cambridge, Downing, geography, general Cambridge life. So yeah, thank you very much, and I hope this was interesting.
Just said thank you to Faith and Antonio for their talks, and I was saying that if you click on the bottom of your screen, there is a Q&A box. If you click on that, you can see that some questions that you've already been asking have been answered already, so you should be able to see answered questions from Michael and Antonio and myself. If you have any other questions for Michael, Antonio or Faith, if you want to submit them in the Q&A box, and we'll answer a few of those now live. We may have answered everything. We seem to not have any questions, which is brilliant. So that's good to know. We'll give you another minute just in case somebody's trying to type a long question.
Yeah, so I've been presenting, so I haven't really seen any of the questions. But I would say, in response to the questions about science or humanity based, is that really the course can be whatever you choose to make it. So apart from in first year, you have to have a balance, but after that, you can really choose to specialise in whatever area you want. So I purely do human geography, but there's also an opportunity, if you so want to do all physical geography modules. And also, I think an important thing to note is that when you enter your third year, if you haven't taken a physical geography module in your second year, it doesn't stop you from doing that module in third year. So very often people will kind of pick physical geography back up again. There's not really a sort of compulsory set of courses that you have to have taken throughout your degree if you decide you want to change specializations and stuff.
Great, thank you. Michael, I think I'll aim this question at you. What kind of work experience, if any, are you looking for in students' personal statements?
Thank you. It's a good question. And it's really important to tell students they're not hoops that you have to jump through. So we're not looking to see if one student's got more work experience than another. it's helpful really to see whatever you've done, including work, whether you've shown commitment to it. I mean, it's pretty easy to see if someone signed up to be a volunteer for a day, but it's something quite different if someone has a reason for really wanting to spend their spare time working for an organization, some special need or something else, over the course of a year or two. So we don't have special criteria around work, but as with everything else, we want to see what you really care about. And if work helps to show that, then that's something to tell us about.
Great, thank you. Faith, a question for you. Why did you pick Cambridge over Oxford or any other university?
I think I can't really remember, to be honest, because well, I've always sort of known that Cambridge was something that Cambridge or Oxford was something that I wanted to do. And I kind of came to geography slightly later than many other people, and I got a really amazing teacher at school that really inspired me to start studying geography. And kind of by that point, I'd more decided that I liked the idea of Cambridge, because I didn't really consider doing geography seriously until my second last year of school. And by that point, I kind of thought, oh, Cambridge looks like a really nice city to be in. So I was more focusing on Cambridge, but I think there are obviously slight differences. And I think I really want to come to Cambridge because I just thought it would be a fantastic overall experience. It's something so different to anything that, you know, anyone around me at school was doing. And I thought this is like where I want to be. I want to really push myself and to challenge myself to go and do the most I can with something I really love doing, and to get the fullest experience of doing geography. And yeah, but I think I obviously applied to lots of different other universities, and I wouldn't necessarily have been unhappy to study geography at any of them, but I feel really lucky and privileged that I've been able to study at Cambridge. And I think the course, so far for me anyway, has been really, really enjoyable.
Perfect, thank you. It's also worth mentioning looking at the course content as well and seeing what the differences are in the content and how you're assessed. I think Antonio has something to add.
Yeah, just to reinforce Faith's point, I should emphasize, because I mentioned I was also an undergraduate at Cambridge a little over 10 years ago. You know, I was the first person in my family to apply to Cambridge even. And I applied from Belgium, where I was living. I'm Portuguese. And, you know, it was a little bit of an adventure, and I didn't think that I would find my feet here. And yet it's really was an incredible opportunity. And there's a lot of people that think that they wouldn't come here that make it their home.
Brilliant, thank you. Another question here, is there career support system that allows you to find jobs after your degree?
Yeah, there is. There's a thing called the University Career Service, which does precisely that. But on top of that, of course, there are other bodies that help. The Royal Geographical Society is a sort of professional body that introduces students to topics and opportunities that are relevant. So I think besides actually showing up at a career service after 3 years, the interesting side of that is what you're doing for 3 years here while you're a student. At no one moment are you likely to think, well, this is really going to land me a job. What's interesting somehow is that the cumulative knowledge and experience of being here, that more than anything else and what you bring to it, is what will make you put you in a good position for your future employment. So I'd be quite positive about that.
And I would also say that, you know, I mentioned in my talk that there are so many opportunities in Cambridge to pursue things that you're interested in that can help you in the future. So, you know, like I currently run, essentially, I'm in charge of a society, which is an amazing opportunity. And that's something that I have had the opportunity to do just kind of in the rest of my life at Cambridge, because there's that society there, and it was something that I got involved in and I really enjoyed. So you're learning sort of academic skills and, you know, important skills through your degree, but there's also huge numbers of opportunities to do things that, one, you enjoy, and that two, are useful for your career outside of your degree in Cambridge, and you can basically do whatever you're interested in, you can do it, and it'll be helpful in the rest of your career.
Perfect, thank you. I've got a couple of questions about the EPQ, the Extended Project qualification. And there's kind of two questions, that whether we look at it and then whether it would be kind of show extra interest. I was obviously talking about supercurricular. Antonio's nodding, so I'm going to pass to him.
Thank you. Yes, it is. So it's not something mandatory or obligatory, but normally when someone does an EPQ, it's already a show of interest. And the great thing is that it really shows a capacity towards independent research very, very early on. And given that that's something we really value in geography, as you will have heard during my presentation, it has a particular edge to it if you have it in your application. But we don't discriminate against anyone who doesn't, because we know that the circumstances that allow people to do EPQs are sometimes very particular. It's not every school that has the circumstances to do it. Do you want to add something, Michael? Or?
Yeah, sorry. I would just like to add that I didn't do A-levels. I am from Scotland, and I didn't do an EPQ. And there are so many ways to demonstrate your interest outside of that. So really do not, if you have the opportunity to do it, it sounds like from what I've heard about it, it sounds really interesting, but don't panic if you can't do it. And there are so many things you can go out and read and attend events and things. So don't panic if you can't do it, because I didn't.
Yeah, great, yeah. And just from an admissions point of view, it won't affect your kind of offer and grade based. I know some universities take it into account when they're looking at your grades, but we don't. A question here, which I will probably answer or not answer it as it might be. So how will COVID-19 affect the numbers of student places available next year? Given that students from this year might defer. At the moment, we're not really able to comment on that. The university is obviously looking into it, and we're trying to obviously stop as much kind of impact on next year as possible. But at the moment, we have not been given enough information for me to be able to say anything clearly, and I don't want to give anybody any false information. So that's all I can say on that one. Another question here, do some colleges have a higher admissions rate than others for geography? Michael or Antonio, pass to you.
Yes, so I'm glad that you asked that question, because the answer I'll explain in a moment has a but. So yes, each year we get a different number of students applying to Downing. Depends how many students choose to apply to Cambridge Geography through Downing, and the same goes for all the other colleges. Okay, so the ratio of places that we offer, typically maybe 5 or 6 places, will vary from year to year. So you might be wondering, if Downing's a good college for geography, maybe it's the wrong college to apply to because it's harder to get in. Okay, and I think that's not true, and here's why. A lot of people don't realize that when you apply to a college or through a college, you're applying to a system of colleges. So you could apply to Downing or St. John's, but you might get accepted by Downing or St. John's, but you might equally be accepted by Clare or by Churchill. And here's why. We have a system that we call the pool that you don't normally hear about. We want to make sure that we get the best candidates, not only coming to Downing, but coming to Cambridge Geography. So if Downing one year gets 8 fantastic candidates and we have 5 places to offer, we will make sure that those other 3 candidates that we can't accommodate at Downing go into the pool, which is a system of sharing and communicating with all the other colleges. So we get a whole series of conversations taking place around admissions, where students who might apply to one college can be redistributed because there will be other colleges who will be really interested in finding and taking up other excellent students. So the long answer is it matters in terms of the odds of getting in. It matters much less than you might imagine. And probably the thing to do then is simply to apply to a college that you really like the look of and that you might imagine could be a place that you would enjoy studying?
I would also say that I know numerous people that have been pulled from various subjects, including geography, and everybody loves the college that they end up in, even if it's not the one that you necessarily, I would say, apply to the college that you like most in the first place. But people who end up in different ones that they apply to, everyone also has the same teaching experience, because they're teaching all the same lectures, the same variety of supervisors, but everyone loves their college. Like, people just really, people don't tend to come and think, oh, you know, I wish I was somewhere else. So don't panic about it. It's just a way for Cambridge to get the best candidates, but everyone has the same experience wherever you are.
Yeah, I think just to add to those points, just like Michael explained, you know, other colleges might end up taking you. And in fact, we've had in the recent years, more and more colleges interested in taking up geography students, such as Pembroke College or Gonville and Keys. So it's a subject in expansion, and the odds are only getting better in that sense. And the other thing I wanted to say is that the only advantage to applying for colleges that have normally greater numbers of students, is that you might have a better subject community while you study. So if you study with 4 other people, you might feel that there are better possibilities for teamwork. But otherwise, you'll get pretty much the same support in any college, the same number of supervisions, the same number of hours of individual attention, the same tutorial support, the same access to societies, the same access to libraries. Then, of course, the few things are specific to each college, but the basics network of support is the same.
Thank you, Rob, for that. Do any of you have any advice for students at the minute, kind of replacement for kind of work experience, or kind of any reading they can do because they're unable to be in school at the moment?
That's a really good question, isn't it? And so we really want students who may have difficulty getting work experience or attending lectures not to be put off from applying. Those may not count nearly as much as you might kind of fear or imagine. So the most important thing for a student to bring is probably reading. And whether you're reading online or magazines, or students who've done a lot of reading and have had the chance to think about the world, and as they learn and read, that shows. And actually it often really allows students to show what they know about geography, and separates students whose interest in geography is kind of profound from those for whom it's kind of merely passing. So I think that's the most obvious answer. And in that sense, applying to Cambridge, geography is absolutely not a question of satisfying a checklist of things that you've done. Have you done A, B, C, D? That's not how we look at prospective students, because you've all be coming out of school, more or less, and we don't expect you yet to have a long and impressive CV as though you'd had a career behind you. What we're looking for instead is we're looking for academic potential. And at the heart of that potential is curiosity about the world. And you can show your curiosity in all sorts of different ways.
Just to add to that, another thing is that sometimes you can show that you're also curious and engaged. You can show that you're socially engaged. So that's another quality we really like in geography. And sometimes it doesn't have to do with work experience specifically, but say, for instance, that you've worked at a food bank in your area, and that really gave you a different insight as to how perhaps inequality works in your town or city. Say that you decided to work for Oxfam for a little bit, or be engaged in debates with your council. All these kinds of activities are forms of public and social engagement, which show someone that's, eager to act and who is interested in making things happen. And that's precisely the kind of I should say, problem solvers and troublemakers that we are going to be after.
Great, thank you. Although we don't ask for geography A-level, are they at a disadvantage if they don't have the geography A-level?
We, of course, we enjoy it when we find students who have done geography A-levels, and that allows us to have a conversation about geography. But actually, interestingly, we do get students who have who apply to us without geography. They might, for example, be keen on physical geography and come having done maths, chemistry, and physics. Or we might have students who are passionate about urban geography and the future of cities, and they might have studied history, English and French at school. So, good question. The range of subjects that students can bring to study, to apply to geography is very wide indeed. Why is that the case, you might be wondering? Well, because we can promise you that by the time you graduate from Cambridge with a geography degree, you certainly will know enough geography.
Great. Is there some emphasis on history within the geopolitics module, as this often informs us about why these situations occur and why they occur between certain countries?
I'm happy to take that question, as it is one of my specialty subjects. The short answer is yes, emphatically. We are very, very aware of the historical context and the different pathways that lead different nations to think about their strategic interests differently. So some of the ways in which we do that are in terms of contextualizing the great geopolitical formations of the 20th century that you will all have heard about, the Cold War, the Atlantic Alliance, but also sometimes we are quite sensitive to thinking about decolonial contexts, the nations that decolonized in the 20th century, and what kind of subaltern geopolitics they might have had, what kind of historical context will be playing into their strategic imaginations or geopolitical imaginations.
Perfect. And the final question, where is the line where geography ends and politics and economics start?
So I'm happy to take that one too. Well, in a sense, the line is better done without, There's crossover between these different subjects. And so inevitably there are topics that both economists, sociologists, political scientists and geographers will be discussing. As I try to kind of signal a little bit in my presentation, it's more a difference in approach that's going to be noticeable, rather than the subject, rather than only geographers can talk about cities. It's rather the approach that's unique. And what geographers have that economists and political scientists don't necessarily have as much is, number one, the attention and the understanding to join different aspects and sometimes aspects beyond the humanities into the discussion. So for instance, if we're thinking about cities, geographers are going to be much, much more sensitive to the kind of material problems of living in a city, especially across different social classes, So what kind of housing do you have? What kind of transport do you have? What's the water? Geographers have always been in the forefront of engaging those material questions more attentively. So that's one. And then the other thing, of course, is that it's that kind of anti-parochial thing that we have, Geographers like to think both that every place is quite unique, that you need to understand every place in and of itself, but also that actually you can't think of one place without the other. So we're very, very comparative in the way we think. And that makes us very distinctive because, for instance, an economist might be very interested in the economic history of, say, the European Union or the British economy, and never really have been encouraged to think a little bit of how those ideas might translate into sub-Saharan Africa, So for instance, they might not always be very attentive how the International Monetary Fund policies might play very differently in different places. Geographers, on the other hand, will always be very, very attentive to these questions of uneven, how questions play unevenly in different places. So that's really a critical quality, I guess.
I would also say that, well, as someone who really enjoys economic geography, I think I have two main points. One, that I think that you approach the same issues, but with a geographical mindset, which I think is kind of what Antonio was trying to touch on, was like touching on as well, that there's a very sort of like geographical approach and way of thinking, which I personally think is, I've sort of come to the conclusion that I think it's a really valuable way of thinking, and I think it adds something to a study of history or a study of economics that isn't necessarily there in those traditional disciplines, and it brings things in from elsewhere. So like I'm currently doing a project, my dissertation is on neoliberal feminism and the way that neoliberal economies kind of construct the idea of women to encourage them maybe to earn money and work and to become a sort of mother and worker kind of thing. But I'm trying to do that in a very sort of geography way by situating it in a very specific location and trying to work out how this specific space shapes this interaction. I think sort of the focus on different spaces and understanding things differently in different places is really important. And I also think that geography is a doing subject. This is one of the reasons why I was so keen on geography, is that geographers go out and they do things. Like you go and there's so much emphasis on field work and there's emphasis on interacting with people and going out and figuring things out for yourself and looking at the world and thinking, okay, how is this thing that I'm thinking about put enacted, and going out and doing things with it, which I think I really like. And I think that's probably, it's not necessarily where the boundary line is, but I think it's something that makes geography a bit different.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Faith, Antonio, and Michael. Oh, was there something else you wanted to add?
If I can just add a point, because I just remember this out of the question, the very good question about the COVID implications on, you know, doing work or even being socially engaged. And, you know, reading was a really good suggestion that Michael gave. I just wanted to emphasize that that doesn't need always to be individual reading. So a really interesting thing that many students do is they engage more collectively into reading. So they have societies, they talk to their friends about what they've read. And so I think that's something that, that can really enhance the depth of your thinking and the way you're thinking. If you find communities in which you can discuss the things that you're reading and hear what other people have made of different forms of reading or looking into case studies, because often it's by listening to others that we start getting our head around an idea with more liberty. So I think, you know, even in occasions like this, outreach that we do, if you're aware of the fact that there's several people that might not be from your school, if you can find ways to form contacts and relations with those people, as well as the people in your school, to discuss your interests around geography, you'll be all the better for it. You will have heard about more things, and you will have heard more interesting thoughts than if you do everything alone. So that's just a suggestion. Again, not mandatory, just another way of making things more interesting in the years of COVID.
It's a good, it's an interesting point, Antonio. And Faith, it was interesting to hear you talk about your own experience. I think like the key message to some of you, some students will be applying and you'll be part of a large class of students in a group who are really keen on geography, and that's wonderful. Others of you just may find that you're the kind of the only one, and you wonder if you have anyone to talk about, anyone to talk with who's on the same wavelength as you and who's thinking of coming to Cambridge to apply for geography, and equally, you're the students that we are just as interested in. So don't worry too much. If you can find people to talk to, that's excellent. And if you can't find them to talk to at the moment, don't worry about it, because when you come to university to read geography, you certainly will.
Brilliant. Thank you, Faith, Antonio, and Michael, for joining us this afternoon, and thank you all for your advice. Yes.
We have a last question there that just popped up. Linguia is asking if there are many mathematical components to the course. So if we can just answer that before we run out of time. The answer is there are some, but most of them will be optional. So in the first year, particularly in the statistics section of the geographical skills, you'll be introduced to statistical analysis, and that has a little bit of mathematics. But for most students, more advanced mathematics will be only for people either engaging with GIS or statistics or demography at deeper levels, or for people that become interested on the mathematical modeling sides of physical geography. But it's most of it is optional. It's, if people really like it, they can get into it. What's MOOCs? Sorry. We have another question. Are MOOCs considered valuable? What's that?
Large online courses, I think.
Ah.
It stands for massive open online courses. Are they valuable? I'm sure, like most things, they have value in and of themselves. And it just depends, doesn't it, on what you do with it and what you choose to get out of it.
Yeah. So just be attentive that they actually have any relevance to the kinds of questions that we engage with geography. So for instance, if it's an online course on podiatry or I don't know, something that's quite far off from what we are interested in geography, then probably not. But then on the other hand, like Michael says, it's what you make of it.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, with the supercurricular stuff that you're interested in doing, you don't need to pay for anything. There's plenty of free resources online, so please don't feel that you need to pay for any of these courses or any information. There's plenty free on the Downing College website, on the university website, and on lots of other resource websites as well that we mentioned before. Thank you to all our speakers for joining us. Thank you for you and coming and listening. Hopefully we've answered everything. You can email me if there's any questions that you have after the webinar. And you should all have my email because I've been emailing you the links out. So please do send me an email if you've got any questions. When you close or leave the webinar, it's going to ask you to redirect to a feedback form. We'd love you to give us some feedback. Obviously, the webinars are quite new, so please fill that in and let us know how you found today, so we can improve future sessions. But thank you to Michael, Antonio, and Faith, and thank you for joining us. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Catriona.